As you saw from the sample photos and videos there, this is an impressive camera system, especially with the R lenses. This resolves higher, much higher than 24 megapixels in my personal opinion. It feels more like 30 plus megapixels. And I've said that in my first impressions video. So with that said, I'm not going to repeat all the specs of this camera, but I will talk about what it's like to use. So let's get down to talking about that right now. This camera is very, very easy to use, and it is a very welcomed upgrade over the original R6, which was a 20 megapixel camera, which basically took the sensor from the 1DX Mark III and put into that camera system out there. And it was the baby brother to the R5, but in some ways this has trumped the R5, especially when it comes to autofocusing. But there are some things that they've held back, and reason being, this is a much more budget-friendly, more hobbyist, prosumer camera in the marketplace. You're not going to get all the video specs that a lot of people out there want. You're only going to be able to shoot in C-Log 3, which is fine for the most part. Most people with this camera system aren't even going to shoot in log. They're just going to shoot with the basic Canon profiles, which are beautiful, by the way. We're doing that right now for this video, and it looks great. You're gonna get 4K 60, and there's really no overheating issues with this camera system. I think for the design, the way they built it, the way they've improved it over the original R5 and R6 for that matter, you're not gonna face those things. And plus, Canon is listening. They're realizing that they have to create cameras that are going to somewhat compete with their cinema line, and they're going to have to face the fact that some people want to have a smaller camera versus a big C200 or even C70, and that's just the world we live in. Also, in terms of the other specs on this, 40 frames per second in electronic shutter mode, which is phenomenal, the fastest out of any camera they have to date. Yes, there's going to be some warping, but it's not a big deal. And I think what Canon is doing is saying, look, we're giving you a lot for your money with the R6 Mark II. We're giving you more than Sony's giving with the A7 IV, but the lenses are more expensive, arguably, from Canon, especially because they don't allow third-party options into the marketplace right now, which is a big caveat when you're getting into this camera. But that's something that we'll talk about later on in this video. But outside of that, you're getting a much better autofocusing system than arguably any other Canon EOS R camera on the market. Yes, even better than the R3 in my personal opinion. You got AI built into this thing, so you have subject tracking that is much more improved over any other Canon system, and you know that this is going to be going into future Canon cameras. Can it come in a firmware update? Who knows? Or will it be, let's say, in the R5 Mark II, if that is a camera that will come out, or maybe the all-fabled Canon R1. Will that ever see the light, or is that just a bunch of tech geeks out there wishing for that camera to be? We'll find out probably in the future. Near future, I'm guessing. Sometimes a lot of these camera manufacturers, they like to test certain functionality in less expensive cameras, see how the general audience adopts to them, and then they will implement them into their flagships versus putting it into a flagship. And if it fails, that means the pros out there won't buy those cameras, and that means that's a big problem. Another attribute that I really like here is the ease of switching from photo to video mode. It took Canon a few years, didn't it? It took them a few years, but they figured out you just need a switch. And hopefully that switch stays on every future camera that comes out from Canon. I don't want to dig into a menu, go into info, this, and press this. It's convoluted. You don't need it. A switch is all you need. One other thing I like is the simplicity of the menu system, especially for your quick menu settings. If you want to switch your ISO really quickly, you can actually tap 200, 400, 600. That makes life easier. Now, Canon has one of the easiest menu systems in the marketplace, bar none.
This video is brought to you by ASUS. Check out the ASUS ZenBook 14X OLED Space Edition, commemorating the 25th anniversary of the first ASUS laptop sent into space, with its space-grade durability. It even comes with a 3.5-inch OLED companion Zen Vision display, and you will have a ball of a time taking in the views with its 16:10 4K OLED Nano Edge Pantone validated display.
What are some of the cons? Well, if you want to use HDMI to record 6K video, don't really think you need to in this camera system, but if you want to do that, you've got that micro HDMI port. Yeah, or mini HDMI, whatever it is. It doesn't belong in a camera system anymore. Go for a full-size HDMI port. These things break, they're finicky, and there's just no reason for it. Another thing, we have UHS 2 card slots, 2 of them. Now, I get that this is a camera system that's not meant for the pro photographers out there, or someone that might use CF Express. But I'll tell you what, the R5 was brilliant in this way that you had one slot for CF Express and one slot for UHS 2. Now, some people say, well, I want redundancy. I want to have 2 cards the same. Okay, valid argument. But that CF Express Type B card is almost like a mini hard drive in your camera system. And it's fast, there's no buffering issues, but still, it would be nice to have one CF Express Type B card slot, and one UHS 2. You may disagree with me, and that's fine. The EVF is fine, 3.69 million dots. It's bright, it's vibrant, high refresh rate, no issues with that, but it would have been nice to go at least 5. You know what I mean? It's a Mark II camera system. Beef it up a little bit. Overall, I think this camera, outside of those few nuances, is a fantastic camera system. Would I recommend it? Yes. But the lack of third-party support that Canon has implemented out there in the industry for the RF mount, which I feel is absolutely ridiculous, and other people have said the same thing as well. Because these cameras, while not that expensive, if you want to get into some good RF glass, you're going to pay much more than this camera alone. That happens in certain camera bodies and certain camera manufacturers out there, like us. But it doesn't need to be. Sigma can make some fantastic glass for this. Tamron can make some fantastic glass for this. Viltrox can make some great glass for this. And they would come at a much more cost-effective and much more budget-friendly option out there for people that want to get into this camera. Yes, you can buy EF glass and adapt it, and that's what a lot of people are doing. But if they can bring us some more budget-friendly, even 1.8 or f2 lenses out there into the marketplace that are going to be much more cost-effective, I think we're going to see this camera fly off the shelves, and rightfully so. It's a fantastic camera. But don't try to make this a pro camera. It's not. But if you're a hobbyist, you have a small business, you say, I want a good camera for video, for photography, great for all use purposes, then this is a camera I highly, highly recommend. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the Canon R6. Quite a short review, but there's been plenty of videos out there. We did a first impressions already, and I got to tell you, I'm just waiting for some less expensive glass, but this camera is friggin' fantastic. But if you like this video, check out more of our reviews right here.